Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the October 13th, 2025 Public Ways meeting. Our first order of our agenda is the approval of minutes for the meeting, the regular meeting of September 8th, 2025. You've all had the opportunity to read those minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from September 8th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And then we also have a special meeting of September 15th, 2025. That's the meeting regarding the airport resolution. You've had the opportunity to read those. Can I have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain because
Oh, and Jeannie will abstain, and I will abstain because I did not attend. All right, let's move on to our parks updates. And Mr. Bellick, I guess we'll go to you for Freed Park.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Freed Park project update. Things are going well out there. The subgrade work is now complete. The detention basin has been cut in. Structures for the storm sewer have been set, and the under drainage for the fields have been installed. This week, new fencing is being installed around the outfield and dugouts. The trenching for the curb that goes around the field that holds in the boundaries of the field, and there's a nailer for the turf to attach to will be starting to get installed. The utility poles for the lights were set and the conduit ran to them. At the end of this week, we're looking at the utilities being bored for the new restroom on the northern side of the project. Those are actually going to get bored underneath the parking lot, all the way across underneath Leatherman Road to hit the sanitary and water mains on the west side of Leatherman there. So pretty interested to see how that goes. That's a pretty long bore, and it's a pretty minimal fall rolling across there is 1%. So there's some tight tolerances involved with that, but the contractor out there is one of the best, so our contractor says so. They have a high degree of confidence with that. Anticipated arrival of the new restroom is in January, so they'll have the foundation prepped and all the plumbing underneath that structure ready to go, and that restroom will be set just like the other two at Blue Tip Park. So that's what's going on out there right now. They're still on schedule. They proof-rolled the site, which is that passed with flying colors. It's really good soil out there, which is nice. I think we had a $60,000 contingency in there for base stabilization if need be, but we won't need to use that because it proof-rolled and everything turned out really well there. Again, on schedule, probably looking at end of November with completion for that project. Any questions?
How are we doing with the $60,000 savings there, how are we doing otherwise on the budget? I mean, weather's been cooperative.
Yep, right on the money, so we're doing well there.
Okay.
This project was the one that the loan got pulled from, right?
Correct. So this is going to be something that'll be funded from cash, so the general fund. That's where the money will be coming from for that.
So when you go to, I'm assuming B and C, we're going to have to determine how they're funded too, but
Correct.
but A's already done, so.
Right, we're under contract with the contractor, and it's well underway.
Any other questions? All right, let's move on to Weatherstone Park.
Can I ask one? I'm sorry.
Sure.
So do we know how our cash reserves are by funding with cash?
I think Mike, you can...
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to take a hit because there are going to be two large pieces. One would be funding this project with basically funds from the general fund, as well as fronting the money for the reimbursement grant for the brickyard remediation. So together, you're looking at probably $3.5 to $4 million. So typically, the auditor's office puts together and updates the cash reserve policy, and then we look at it, review it, and make whatever changes. But I would anticipate that we're going to see a big drop because we've instructed the auditor's office to incorporate in their calculations the assumption that those two projects would be paid for with general fund cash.
The only difference is, though, the 2.1 will be reimbursed at some point in time.
It is, and my understanding is it's kind of a reimburse as you go, so we, spend 50,000, you can apply to get that 50,000 back. You don't have to wait till you've spent all 2.1 to get the whole amount back.
Okay. Is there a summary somewhere of cash use so that we can determine what the reserves are? Is that somewhere? Do we ask the auditor for that? Or?
Yeah, well, so typically during the budget process, once we finalize the budget book, one of the things that'll be included in the budget book is a synopsis of all of the fund balances in the city, what the projection is at the end of this year, as well as the projection at the end of next year based on what's in the budget proposal. Typically, and we would typically do this at the first meeting in November, but we've moved it to the second meeting. There's a presentation on the cash reserve policy to council, separate dedicated time where we go through each page of the cash reserve policy to show the assumptions that are in there and the impact from projects and those type of things.
Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to Weatherstone Park design and update.
Sure, so B&C, as Mr. Renacci stated, we put those on hold for now because of current discussions we've had with council regarding funding. Those were both debt issuance projects, so we have put those on hold, so nothing to report at this time with those.
Okay. Move on to the Brickyard improvements.
Yeah, the Brickyard improvement design and remediation update. Remediation plans are being refined to minimize the earthwork out there. We've been able to tighten up the areas where remediation is needed, so we won't have to spend as much getting those areas to the levels that they need be. We're still coordinating with St. Edwards to finalize the road alignment to State Route 94 to the site, and we're in the process of finalizing the passive park estimates and design estimates and plans.
A question for the Brickyard only. I heard Mr. Norris say this earlier that we don't have enough industrial land for industrial growth. And I was actually talking to somebody who said that some of that Brickyard property would have been perfect for industrial growth. Is there still a way of using some of that for industrial growth if needed before we determine what we use? Is there any thoughts into that at all?
I think depending on what the appetite of council would be.
I mean, is there a need for industrial growth industrial property? I guess that's the question.
I think there's always room for industrial growth. I mean, that's definitely a benefit to the city.
Where do we have land right now for industrial growth? It's the development where what was it? That just left. We were just talking
UPS.
about
UPS.
That's still industrial, right?
Correct.
And is that it? Is that pretty much the land we have left? Or?
That's more of, I think, a Tom Moore's question to know exactly
Okay.
which.
Yeah, and I can chat a little bit. I know we have a lot of agenda, but maybe after the meeting.
Okay. All right.
Along with the Brickyard, the next three pieces of legislation are before you for your consideration tonight. The first one is a request for a supplemental out of the general fund for $2.136 million. That's to fund the brownfield remediation of the area. That was a grant. Those are grant dollars that'll be a reimbursement grant, as Mr. Testa stated earlier, in coordination with the cash coming out needed for the Free Park project. So the number between those two is that $3.5 to $4 million range coming out of the general fund. This one, again, being a reimbursement grant that's paid back through the Port Authority. So it's kind of like the construction loan. You pay as you go. You get reimbursed as you go through that process. The second piece.
By the way, on that, this land really, this land needs this 2.1, so it's pretty easy. We got to spend it. We got to remediate, so we got to spend it.
Right.
And we're getting the money to spend it. So that piece of legislation is just to do that.
Correct.
Do you need a motion to move that forward?
Do we need a motion?
If you could remove that with a suspension of the rules and.
So I'll entertain a motion.
I'd make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, if you would move that to council of the whole with suspension of the rules.
Thank you. Second piece of legislation is authorizing the Director of Public Service to receive bids and enter into a contract for that remediation work. So it kind of goes with that first part. Again, just to authorize us to go enter into a contract for the demolition and construction.
Is that paid for out of the 2.136?
Correct.
Yeah.
Again, we ask for a suspension of the rules of emergency
Entertain a
clause.
motion.
I'd move to move that forward.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, the third piece of legislation is a request authorizing the Director of Public Service to receive bids and enter in a contract for construction and work associated with the passive park aspect of the brickyard, along with a suspension of the rules and emergency clause requested as that as well.
And that's paid for with the $900,000 grant?
Correct. That's a donation
These, plus the remaining state.
and the remaining state funds.
So just to clarify, we have the $2.5 million from the one-time community grant funds. Approximately $890,000 of those funds were spent on design. The remaining $1,615,100 it is in this year's budget proposed for passive park work. And then there's an additional $900,000 from the Fixler donation that would be in the 2026 budget for passive park work.
So there'll be 2.5, 15, 100. I'm just adding up your 1,615 and the
Yeah.
900,000 that'll be spent for passive work in the park.
Yeah.
What is all that? Just, I mean, since I wasn't here last year, what are we doing for 2.5 million?
Sure. So that's two trailheads. One's off of Wall Road. The other one's off Chelly Lane, the new development over there next to St. Edwards. Both of those sites will have a restroom building with that. The one off of Wall Road, since we don't have utilities out there, will be a composting restroom like we see in the metro parks. The one off Chelly Lane will be a full-service restroom like we have in our other parks with water and sewer hookup. There'll be a little trailhead there with the signs, parking lot area for those, and then the rest of the dollars will go into making the trail network through the passive side of the property.
Can I ask what you do for safety? I mean, is there anything proposed? I mean, one of the problems with parks nowadays is people do have problems on these passive parks, whether they're, I'm talking about jumped and problems like that. I mean, what are we doing to make sure there's some safety options in those
Sure.
parks, if any?
I think we could address that maybe with some signage, some informational signage, being situationally aware of where you're at. As far as policing, that part, that's a conversation I think that we'd have to have with the safety side of the house and what their feelings in regards to that would be. I hate to say
Will the parking lot be well lit and all those things?
absolutely, yeah. We want to make sure that we make the areas as accessible and safe as possible.
But this 1615 was approved by council last year as part of the 2.5.
So the 2.5 million was originally the design estimate, although Service Director Matt Hiscock had said, hey, if the design comes in at an amount less than that, we'd like to use whatever's left over to start on the passive park. So the design did come in significantly less than that, so that's what's left, the 1.6 million. And my understanding is that it basically needs to be used for this project in some capacity.
Okay.
Other questions?
Well, this legislation you're just asking for the 900,000 then, because the other's already been approved. What's this legislation doing?
It's actually, the 900,000 is for next year's budget. This is for the remainder of the grant funds
Oh,
this year.
it's to receive bids and enter in a contract for...
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Not to exceed the balance that we have available.
correct.
I want to back up a little bit. We asked about industrial, possibly land. Is there requirements on the state money? We have to use a certain amount of the land for a park, or what is the conditions of that money?
I am not sure what the conditions are off the top of my head associated with that grant money. That's something we can for sure look into and
Because
see if that's a...
is there additional lands in the park that are not in the park in that Brickyard area?
So going through design, like in initial phases,
Yes.
There's a possibility that it could be there, but without knowing the full design and what the true vision and of the area is going to be, I couldn't truthfully give you an answer on that.
Can you bring that to the committee of the whole, between now and the committee of the whole meeting, just an explanation of what's actually going to be, because it sounds like you're going to take all that land now and make it, could be passive. I guess my question is how much is passive, how much is non-passive, how much could be used for other things now that we're at least only doing this? Is there a way of explaining that before we approve that?
Yeah, I think so. To a certain degree, again, without having a full design of the site, there might be some unanswered questions there. But I can tell you the southern part of the site, basically from, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Brickyard at all, but where the pond is, moving south towards Wall Road, that's the passive area. The elevation changes there are pretty drastic, so development there would be pretty cost prohibitive to do. So the northern section, basically from the pond to the tracks, on the northern border and the western border out to 94, that's more of the area where it's more conducive for building out athletic complexes, whatever we want to use that area for. So I guess long and short, to answer your question, without having a firm design of what the site's going to look like in totality when it's done,
So the only reason I ask is while we're waiting, it sounds like you're answering that. The southern portion will be, because it's non-buildable anyway, will be the trails. The northern portion someday could be ball fields, or if somebody walked in and said, I wanted X amount of acres for industrial, I mean, that probably could be something, could be looked at. I mean...
I'll chime in real quick. So the northern, the passive park area is the south of the lake. The northern part has been designated for the ball field and multi-use field and so forth. As was stated, there's nothing like in concrete. This is the design, but Mr. Hiscock can show you some preliminary ideas and thoughts. The dollars that are being received, though, has been designated to reclaim that area, and that was based upon that area becoming a park area, and so that really takes care of the majority of that area. I think really going too much more north, you're starting to get into some wetland area. So I think your question is could you potentially use this for industrial? And I think the integrity of the grants, both the state as well as the brownfield, that to me, I would think would be more park oriented.
I guess the question I was asking was, we're not going to spend 2.5 making the whole property passive walkways. Right now, we're just making the southern
just
property.
the southern part.
And then at some day, city council can decide whether they move forward with the ballparks. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that could, but right now, the passive will just be the southern port, which is not developable anyway.
And then also part of that northern area is the area where it's going to be cleaned up. And so at least it'll be a cleaned up site.
Yeah. Okay.
Are there other questions?
No, I would move that this comes forward. The only thing is that it'd be nice to have a picture of the Brickyard and kind of a showing so that everybody on city council knows what we just talked about.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
And the motion carries. Let's move on to ball field maintenance.
Yes, so with ball field maintenance, to report, the Parks Department is winding down their season with taking care of the ball fields. We have received some quotes. We don't have all of them yet for some grading work on AC and Weatherstone 2. Reason for both of those, I don't know if you've been by either of those parks lately. They're both in the same condition as Weatherstone 1 was, or they're that beachy, really sandy type of material in it. The bigger problem is runoff on those fields. We just did Weatherstone 2, so, or Weatherstone 1, whenever I keep getting them mixed up. We don't want the work that we did there ruined by, bad drainage coming off the field. It sets higher than that one. Like I said, we're still waiting on getting some finalized quotes with that. And then AC ball field, we've got some ponding on that field, and there's quite a lip now between the infield and the outfield that we want to knock down to make it more playable and safer for the individuals playing out there. That's all I have at this point with ball field maintenance. If you have no other questions.
Yep. Let's move on to E.J. Young Memorial.
Yes, so the E.J. Young Memorial, much like the Weatherstone and Valley View Park designs, we put on hold. We had $100,000 in the budget for that. We put on hold for now, but I can tell you that we have, Director Hiscock has made contact with a local artist, trying to get some concepts, work with that, and I think he pointed him in the direction of some individuals that work for a museum, and he's waiting to hear back from them on something like that.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question? Why was it put on hold? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah,
Because this has been talked about for 3 years. Why was it put on hold?
Yep, it has been. So the concern is basically with the resolution limiting debt issuance for parks, knowing we're going to have to come up with cash, in essence, for example, for Freed Park, and to front the money for the remediation at Brickyard, that's a pretty sizable hit to the general fund. So other areas in the general fund budget would be cut back to offset some of that.
But that was already budgeted.
But we already
That's what I
budgeted
wondered. Wasn't it
$100,000.
already in
For
the
the last
budget?
2 years we budgeted.
Yep, so anything that is budgeted this year, if it's not going to be spent this year, typically we would then budget it next year.
Right.
However, because of the concern that, hey, we're going to, have some pretty decent hit to our general fund, items that would have been rolled over and budgeted for next year were taken out of the budget.
I don't agree with that concept. This has been budgeted for 2 years. Just because we're passing a resolution now, you're going to hold us hostage for this thing that we've talked about for 2 years.
Well, I think it's more that the change is going to have an unanticipated large impact to the general fund. So we're looking at, wherever we can to try to offset the general fund for the additional cost it's going to incur to finish some of the projects that we're already committed to.
I would like to challenge
I
your
will
statement.
challenge it wholeheartedly.
The money for the $2.1 million for Brickyard was already planned for. We weren't going to take debt for that, were we? That was already coming out of the general fund, so only really we're taking a hit of about $2 million for Freed Park.
Yeah. Now, whether or not the reimbursement process of that was understood, I believe it was, but that's correct. But still, that's 2.1 plus, another $1.5 million to $2 million for Freed Park that are going to impact the general
It's
fund.
Freed Park, not the Brickyard too, because the Brickyard, we already were going to get that money back, and we were going to not take loans for it.
Yep, so it's, Freed Park and the remediation, so,
Yes.
yeah.
What's the total amount for the E.J. Young Memorial? 100,000?
Yeah, that was the
$100,000.
placeholder amount.
Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing, I don't even know what that is, but I think what I'm hearing is that it's City Council's desire to get that done. So if you can just look at it, see if you can get it into the numbers and bring it back as part of the budget. And look, if City Council wants it done, they just prove it out of
We
yeah.
committed to that in 2024.
I know, but I will give administration some leeway, as we've now told them no part, so they're going to have to look at their cash and determine, they're going to look at their cash and then come back to us, in my opinion. So we almost have to let them look at the cash situation. But I do think it sounds like it's a priority of City Council, so when you're looking at your cash situation, see if you can't fit that one in.
What has been the holdup in taking so long for this? Finding the...
I think it's trying to get a
Find-
concept or a design with it. Again, Mr. Hiscock's reached out to multiple individuals on some sort of concept.
That's another issue, is he's tried so hard.
Yeah.
Both months, and either individuals aren't getting back, it's just not still working on it. But we don't have a clear picture moving forward. Still trying, we haven't really.
And it could come in if we did find somebody under that 100,000 too.
Possibility, yeah. I mean, really,
I think
we
that
have no
100,000
idea.
was put in as a place marker.
What we're hearing is that this is a priority for council.
Yes.
And so, you know,
It is the history of our community, and that's, we're trying to preserve that too, so.
it is. Sure. We gotta find somebody to do it first, and then we need to.
But if we don't have the money in the budget, you gotta have the money in the budget to, when you find someone to do it.
Why don't,
We're hearing it.
I don't think you've removed it. You haven't removed it yet. The
It's just
100,000.
on hold.
Yeah, that's what he
They
said.
removed it, they put it on
Well,
hold.
yeah,
Put on
for-
hold.
For next year, let me look in,
Yeah, and it's been there for 2 years.
Look, we just took 125 out of the CIC for, I mean, there's money. We're talking about 100. I'm sure you could find the 100, but it does sound like it's the council priority, so.
there is 100,000 in this year's budget, nothing was budgeted.
For next
or, Yeah,
It's just
planned
gonna
to be
move
carried
into
for
next year.
Just move it
That's what
into
I'm
next year.
asking, because that's not what I heard.
Sure, and I'm sorry if I said something that was misunderstood. Yeah, like this year, like I guess through the process where we're at right now, we're just kind of on hold in limbo because we're not really getting anywhere.
Just
with
moving that 100,000 into 26.
Which, by the way, you should be. You've got to look at your cash, you got to determine what you have, and then you got to come back and prioritize things, so. But I do think what I hear is that it's a priority, so.
Sure.
Update on our dedication plaques.
So dedication plaques are in. If you noticed on the pocket park, the one is installed on the wood privacy fence on the southern edge. The one is installed there. The one for Blue Tip Park, we're just waiting to get the post and bracket fabricated to get it set out there, but both plaques are in.
That's good.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on to the next category, I just wanted to also let you know that with Weatherstone and Valley View, those projects were in part funded by grants that are managed by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. So ultimately, if we delay those projects and ultimately cancel them, there would be the risk that we would forfeit grant funds, approximately $100,000 on Weatherstone and about $240,000 for Valley View Park, just to inform you.
What were those numbers again, please?
About $100,000 for Weatherstone and $240,000 for Valley View Park. And to clarify, the reason that those monies wouldn't be spent is, we looked at what we could do with the project and what the project budget was, and the concern was that those pieces represent a smaller portion of the overall budget. So if we didn't have the majority of funding, there wasn't a lot we could do with just those pieces to improve isolated areas.
Have you received that money already?
So those are reimbursement grants.
So you haven't received them, so you're not giving them back, you would just forfeit them?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Could you apply for them again?
Well, so the goal would be to ideally roll them over. Whether or not we could apply for them again, I'm not sure. My understanding was that different House legislature teams assigned these or awarded these funds in different budget years. So I don't know if we could apply again. It sounded like those were specific allocations from funding programs. I just don't know.
Okay. Maybe we can look into seeing the ability to roll those over for a year, please. Okay, the OPWC Wintergreen Street Sidewalk Project.
The milling is
Before we
nearly.
move on, just so, because I know there's people watching at home. Weatherstone and Valley View are going to be suspended for now. The total cost of both of those estimated was what? I think it's important that we throw that number out, because what we're doing is we're suspending maybe $150,000 of potential reimbursement but we're really looking at how much that was going to be spent to do those two parks.
Yeah, so it would have been approximately $925,000 for Valley View. So we removed $685,000 from a general fund transfer, and then the other $240,000 would be grant funding. And then at Weatherstone, we removed $550,000 from a general fund transfer to this project, with the other $100,000 being for grant funding. So roughly $925,000 for Valley View and $650,000 for Weatherstone.
Right, so anybody watching this knows we're just suspending $1.5 million approximately worth of park improvements. And to do that, we may have to give up a couple $100,000 worth of grant money.
That's correct.
340 grand.
Yeah. But there's still, if you took that, there's still $1.2 million that would have had to come up, the city would have either had to borrow or come up with or whatever, so, okay.
That's correct.
Anything else on the parks? Let's go on to wintergreen streets and sidewalks.
Yes, so the milling is nearly complete with minimal concrete slab repairs after milling operations. And paving should be following up probably within the next week or two. So looking forward to that project coming to completion. The CDBG sidewalk project, we had a pre-con on the 10th of this month. Work started today, and we're looking at about a 2 to 3 week time frame to get that work wrapped up.
I had a question about the streets in Wintergreen. What is the lifeline of that? I mean, when we redo those streets, have they?
Longevity
Yes.
of the street?
Yes, yes.
So you're probably with an overlay, the 15, 20-year mark?
It should last 15 to 20 years. Okay, because I
Yeah,
know
that's-
that there's some streams and so forth underground there that
Sure.
have affected the roads.
Sure. So if you remember, I'm trying to think, Queen Anne's Place.
Yep.
The steep hill that goes up into the cul-de-sac there. There was always that rust-colored water that
Oh,
came
yes.
down from the underground springs there. Well, we went in, remediated that, took out the concrete. I mean, we almost re-poured that entire street a couple of years ago. With that, we put in under drains and tied them into our storm structures to alleviate that water. And since then, that basin is running with spring water constantly. So luckily, we were able to get some drainage in there, really maintain the integrity of that road base, and that should be in good shape for quite a few years to come.
Okay. So if the concrete, if it freezes, I'm not an engineer, that's why I'm asking.
Sure.
So if the concrete underneath, there's some water and it freezes and so forth, and there's some movement, will that affect the asphalt on top?
Yes. So we can talk about this after the meeting because I can
Okay.
really get into the weeds with this for you. For
I have no
time's sake,
clue. That's why I'm
I
asking.
can explain that to you. But yeah, we do our best when we go in and mill off that top couple inches of concrete. We reprofile the road, kind of grind those joints down to get rid of that joint failure that occurs with that.
Okay.
And we either put down a mat material that helps make a barrier between the asphalt and the concrete. It gives some flexibility so
Oh,
it
okay.
actually moves with the road. And that prevents a lot of different things. But like I said, I could really get into the weeds with that after the meeting if you want to. But the process that we use, it's a good way to do it. And we've been doing that for quite a few years now. We just repaved West Street this year from College to Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably needed it, a year or two ago, but, it was 15 years that road lasted after doing that. And that's a heavily traveled street. So in a smaller residential development, you get a little bit more longevity.
So about 15 to 20. Okay.
By the way, not to lengthen this, but I think there was a time we never paved over a cement road, so it's a new procedure, which I'm not saying is wrong. I'm just,
Right.
yeah.
So, I mean, when you think about it, if you go in and try to pour a whole new street with concrete, the cost
It's
is
expensive.
just, out of this world. And before, we put streets in without any sort of under drainage underneath them. So it was just concrete sitting on dirt. So you're gonna have those water issues because once the water gets
Right.
underneath there, it gets trapped. So the water, you know, in the winter, the salt, all that brine water gets underneath
Sure.
there, erodes the concrete from the bottom up, and that's what causes those joints to fail and open up, which then, in turn, through the rest of the years, with rain and everything, and any other type of precipitation we have, gets into that base and keeps making it wetter and wetter, and that's what causes an unstable base, and you get slab rocking and cracking. And
Sure.
Are we, and I hate to prolong, but sidewalks, are we looking at the trees now when we're doing sidewalk repair? Because
Absolutely.
there are a lot of sidewalks that are being destroyed because of the trees that were put in there. So are we replacing those with trees that are not going to be a problem anymore?
Yes, so through the Shade Tree Commission.
From the shade
we-
tree, yes.
Perfect. I was going to
Yeah.
say, because
They're
I
really
know Leeds
watching
Gate,
that.
the sidewalks are all, the road, by the way, has been around for 30 years. We don't have any problems with it. But the sidewalks
Yes.
has damage because the trees are just busting the sidewalk up.
Right,
So,
right.
okay.
Yeah, we've gotten a list together, like we have an arborist on staff now in our parks
George?
department, and he's picked out species of trees that don't root out and you know, get huge. And it's not just the roots as a concern, it's, you know, utility impacts, you know, you get into sanitary storm sewer, you know, so we've really looked at species of trees, spacing, you know, you get into, you know, some streets, the older mature neighborhoods, that block sight distance when you get up to the intersection, or street signs are too close to a drive approach at somebody's residence. So we've looked at a lot of different issues associated.
He's done a nice job.
Yes.
Let's move on to the Southwest Parking Lot Project.
Yeah, so our consultant CISO continues to coordinate with the city and other vendors for the next set of drawings. The pavilion and electrical details continue to be worked on as well. So we're still going through that process of getting some finalized plans together and get back to our engineering. We give our feedback and then go back to them, vice versa. So,
That consultant again was CISO?
CESO.
CESO.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any questions on the Southwest lot? Okay, how's City Hall East parking lot going?
Davey Engineering is still working on a set of prints and a cost estimate for us. We got together with them and provided them with some comments of what we'd like to see. They have asked for confirmation on a couple of items by our engineering department, and a meeting. We're setting up a meeting with them and our electric department to get together and look at lighting and things associated with electrical aspects of that project.
Any questions on this?
Nope.
On this
And
city?
you're going to try to get that in by the middle of 1st of November, or whatever, 45 degrees? Isn't it 45 degrees is
Yeah.
pretty much the cutoff?
Yeah, so I think that's a project that's probably more than likely going to get pushed off until
Pushed
spring,
off,
just
okay.
because, yeah, the weather, the asphalt plants are going to be shutting down. I don't know if this weather keeps up. It might be Christmas before they shut down.
Let's
but
hope.
as of right now, that's kind of where we're at with that.
All right, the State Route 94 East Reimer Intersection Improvement Project.
We are still waiting to hear back from our consultant for the study on that area.
And that consultant is,
I am not sure what the consultant
you can
is.
send it to me.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
No problem.
And something I talked about just recently was the main State Street parking lot. Cleaning up some of that down there.
Sure. So yeah, we received the comments from you a week and a half ago. Sent our parks department down there. They trimmed up the area, picked up a bunch of trash. I think there's a lot of broken bottles and debris from the neighboring areas. So they got that cleaned up as best they could. The parking lot probably needs some sealing work. It's not in bad shape, but it could use a little bit of patching and some
Striping.
striping and yeah.
Because you can't see any of the stripes on that one. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's something we'll look at and see, what we can do
That
that.
might be something, when they're striping southwest lot, we can get them to move down there, while they're here.
Sure.
Save some money that way instead of calling somebody out separate for that.
Sure.
Just a thought. Let's move on to the airport and the FAA grants.
What? I'm gonna have to pull up my computer because evidently that didn't print out my narrative on that.
On the airport, all of these were in the resolution that we passed, right?
Correct.
Yes. AWAS, apron, and PAPI were all in there.
Have you found anybody to help you with the grants, the FAA grants?
We have a consultant, once I get my computer up and running here, I can fill you in on all of that.
While we're waiting for that, I did, like I sent you a email asking, we were talking about revenues. Is there any way to confirm those numbers that I sent you?
Well, and again, I don't have any particular names or like company IDs, but I would think that probably a lot of them are associated with companies owned by the FBO. I could make a request for them for payroll records that we could verify, I would imagine either here or through the IRS or through the Ohio Department of Taxation.
I think it would be important just to find out how much, I mean, for the perspective of what the airport's bringing in, because if you were able to confirm that, and then you look at the hangars, and at some point in time we get revenue from the hangars, I think that negates a deficit at the airport.
Yeah. Would you like me to reach out to the FBO and make a formal request for those
Yeah, I
records?
think you should. But I don't think it's just his company, because there's two unrelated companies that I got information from as well, so.
Okay.
He got it for me. So I think there are two companies down there that aren't related to the FBO.
Okay.
So, yeah, he should be able to get all that.
See what I can find out. Okay. I'll do that.
And then maybe for the next committee of the whole meeting, if you could, only because it was brought up at the last meeting of the airport's deficit, I think if we estimate that plus estimate what the hangars can bring in, I think you have an airport that's paying for itself at this point. Possibly. It'd be interesting to see those numbers so that,
Yep. See what I can pull together.
all right.
All right, I got it. So for the airport, FAA grants assistance, our consultant RS&H, the contract is being finalized with them. Brainstorming meeting is going to occur between our consultant and city staff, so we'll be moving forward with that item. Airport apron project update. The contract with North Star Paving is in place. Our engineering department will facilitate pre-construction meeting with them, with the contractor, our consultant, RS&H, and engineering, and this project will take place next year, probably in the spring. The PAPI project, the contract with Param Electric is in place. Engineering will facilitate pre-construction meeting involving the contractor, our consultant, RS&H, and engineering again. Param has until the end of next year to get this project completed. I can't say the reason for that is when we first went out to bid for this project in July of '24, we didn't get any bidders because of the condensed timeline for it. I think this is a specialized, area where not every contractor, electrical contractor out there can do this type of work. So we didn't receive any bids back in '24 when we first, started this project. With the new bid document that was set out, we extended that timeline, and they have until the end of next year to get that complete. Now, that's just what their contract says. Hopefully, they can get in sooner than that to get that project brought to fruition and completed. the airport AWAS system. They're finalizing the scope of work with the consultant CNS. Based on discussion with the FAA Airport District Office prior to the shutdown, we will need to enter into a contract with the consultant prior before submitting for that grant application. So we need to get our ducks in a row pretty much. Last time when we applied for it, we didn't have that easement, so we kind of had to start over and go that route. We just didn't realize that we needed that easement, secured prior to applying for that.
The timeline for the consultant, do you have a approximate, just to keep us informed?
Sure, so the design is going into...
No, I mean, before getting the consultant under contract, so you can move forward.
I believe they're under contract now.
Okay.
I believe so. I'll let you know for sure, but I believe that is the case. They'll be going into design in spring of 2026.
Okay.
And it's intended with the IIJA and AIG funds that are used for the design and construction of that AWAS. We're probably looking construction in spring of 27 for that project. Hopefully that doesn't get stymied though with the government shutdown and the FAA. I don't know if they're going to be getting a ton of backlog because of that. So that's where we're standing on both of those projects.
Mr. Chairman, seeing that it's 7:04, knowing that there's a bunch of public people out there, I don't really want to rush through, my opinion is I don't want to rush through a proposed budget review. Is there a way we can schedule this for another
I
time?
would like to see if we could schedule a special meeting.
Yeah, I think that would be a good, tomorrow we have public service, but I know the chairman said that he needs to leave by 6 o'clock. We moved that meeting up a little bit, but we can't move it up too far because there's a stormwater commission. So I think we'll probably be in a similar situation tomorrow. So, I'll recommend to my boss that maybe we schedule one or even a couple of meetings where we can just devote time to the budget.
This is going to take a couple of minutes.
I have one more airport, one more airport. Number 12 in our resolution, the fuel tank considerations. That is real-time critical. How is that going on?
Sure. I think with our consultant that we have on board now and getting into the grant app, process with that, I think that's something that's been talking with the airport committee. That's a priority for out there. So I think going after grant dollars for that and getting that project moving forward.
That's the most important. Yes.
I think there is a grant for that by the end of the year, and that's a state grant, so that's not federal, so you might want to
Move on that.
do what you can on that.
Pending the state shutdown.
Yeah.
So we would like to schedule a special meeting to spend a lot of time on these budgets because I think it's very important. And I think we've let you know that we feel it's very important. So if you could look at some dates and calendars and we'll all get back with you on that. Anything other that we need to address immediately?
I can't say we're gearing up for leaf season last week of this month. Hopefully we get a quick drop this year with the warm, dry weather that we've had. Hopefully they drop quick and we can get them up before the snow flies.
So our next scheduled meeting is going to be November 10th at 6 o'clock here in these chambers. And without any further ado, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. And I'm done.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.